Good morning, St. Mark family. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, whether you're here in the house with us, we thank you, or you're at home, in your car, in your bedroom, wherever you may be this morning. We appreciate you joining up with us. If you would, we're going to go to the Lord in song. Stand if you're here, sing along if you're not. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you've chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Whoa, 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 You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship
worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. Worship you. Worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
Sing our You Are Waymaker.
You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
One more time.
You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
We're thankful this morning for a Waymaker. God, thank you for this time when you get to spend worshiping you, Father. Please be with Greg in the message. In your name we pray, amen. Thank you so much. If you would, turn your attention to the screen. So we'll go to a short video.
When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw me. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even then the night will shine like day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Search me, God, and know my heart, and lead me in the way everlasting. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Well, good morning, St. Mark. It's good to be back. Just want to take a second to say thank you to all of our folks that made things happen last week, to Stephen and Kathy and Harry and all of our tech folks, and to Andrew for preaching and to give us some time away. We had a wonderful vacation and time away to not do much, which was exactly what I wanted. And so thank you for that. All of these folks, they do all of our stuff every week, but it's particularly nerve-wracking when I have to be away, because that's when everything goes wrong, right? And so that was not the case this time. And so thank you again for standing in the gap and for doing a wonderful, wonderful job of making us who we are and making worship happen for St. Mark United Methodist Church. I just want to remind you, or a special welcome, rather, to all those that are here today, and for those that are joining us online. I want to remind you our offering basket is over here by the door. Those of you that are joining us online, there's instructions on our website, www.stmarknorthport.com, for you to give online. So I encourage you at any time during the service, feel free to make your offerings available or on the way out as we conclude today. We'll revisit our scripture real quick. Our text today comes from Psalm 139. You heard that in the video introduction. And just so to set the stage for our discussion today, just a few minutes of revisiting a few of these verses. I encourage you to follow along. The words will be on the screen at home as well. And if you have a Bible with you, please feel free to join me. Psalm 139, verses 1 through 12, and then concluding with verse 23 and 24. It says, "O Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before. You lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there." We'll unpack that word in just a little bit. "If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. And over in verse 23, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Hold those two verses in your mind and in your heart today as we kind of take things apart a little bit. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Friends, the Word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God indeed. For those of you who don't know, Helen and I have been in ministry for 25 years, give or take. Actually, Helen she's been in ministry all of her life. She was born when her dad was in seminary. And so for those of you that don't know, Helen's dad, my father-in-law, George Stewart, was a Baptist minister. He's retired now for 40 years. And so it was a joy to have him not only as my father-in-law, but as my pastor for a season when Helen and I were figuring out love and all of that stuff, right? So I'm trying to be politically correct with that. So years ago, early in ministry, Helen and I worked with students in youth ministry, and there was an occasion where we partnered with Helen's dad's church to do a mission trip. And we were actually on a trip in Mobile, Alabama, or Mobile for our friends from up north. And so it's funny, you'd have to be there, right? So groups from up north would refer to Mobile as Mobile. And so I'm like, what? Where are we again? So anyway, and so we were in Mobile, and there was a community center there that was one of the project sites for our mission trip. And so it was preordained, I believe, that week our group, or at least one of our groups from our gathering, would be the ones given the task of repairing the roof on this community center. Now, the lady that ran that place, it's important for you to know, a black lady that pretty much ran a 24-hour care center for children in an attempt to accommodate working mothers and people who worked odd shifts and things of that sort so that care could be given to their children. And so that place was pretty much open 24 hours a day. And the lady that ran that place, she actually had a cot in her office and would stay there all the time, even against medical advice from her doctors as she was battling cancer with a brain tumor. And that was her passion, and that was her mission, to care for the people in her community. Now, if you back up, if you've ever been on a mission trip or you've ever planned one, it's probably the more important aspect. You know that there's a lot of legwork that goes into this. There's a lot of planning and conversation that happens, paperwork, and lots of those types of things. And so it was that week that, unbeknownst to the person from another church, from another state, that was wrestling through the process of saying yes about being an adult chaperone for this trip, right? Perhaps you've been in that situation before. It's kind of a odd out-of-body experience, right? And so this person was wrestling with that. Do I go? Can I fit that into my schedule? He was a private business owner. And turns out this guy was a commercial roofer. He owned a commercial roofing business. He didn't know that that project needed to be done. God is working through his life to say yes. He goes, when they find out, they're like, oh my gosh. That guy, I think, actually even went back to his hometown and got his trailer full of all of his stuff so that the team he was overseeing could work and repair the roof, right? Important to note as well, a young man that was in Helen's dad's church grew up in an incredibly racist family. That was his ethic and his ethos. It was his life, right? The things that he had been taught about the differences and the deficiencies between white and black. And that was his worldview. And he was wrestling too, whether to say yes to going on this trip. Guess whose group he got put in? And he spent a whole week not only working on this community center roof to repair the roof, but he watched this elderly, brain cancer-ridden black woman care for the people of her community. And it changed this young man's life. It changed his life. Now, the camp, God, I'm a big baby when it comes to this stuff. Because I got to bear witness to that. And it changed my life too. It's not their custom to invite their clients to the camp where we are. We were at the University of Mobile, and we would have our worship service at night, and our whole group together would worship together, and we had a speaker there, and the whole deal. And so it's not their custom to invite their clients, but they invited her because she had a story to tell. And I'll never forget her phrase as she sat in a chair on the front of the stage. And she told the people in our group, she said, "It rained today, but it didn't rain in my building because of you." And as she's told her story, this young boy was the first one in the room to stand up and to applaud her, to visit with her after our time of worship was over. Incredibly powerful story. As I reflect on that through the context of our passage from Psalm 139, right? And I think back on that story and how the things, and I'm sure you have stories and similarities of this nature in your own life, in your own spiritual journey, where you're wrestling with things and you're one yes away, right? You're one yes away from being that roofing contractor, unbeknownst to you, who gets to impact someone's life and impact a community in this way, simply by saying yes. It may seem like no big deal to you in the moment, but let me assure you, it is a huge deal to those that it changes. Just because you said yes, you're one divine appointment, right? They didn't know the background of this young man. The camp did not know that. And they stuck him in this group so that he could bear witness that his malformed upbringing could be rectified because of the way that this woman loved Jesus for her community. And I think we're like that too. We're one yes away. We are one divine appointment. You'll never convince me otherwise. that God is in heaven, Jesus is in heaven, and the disciples, and they're all looking on at this young man, and Jesus is like, check this out. Right? Check this out. Watch what I'm fixing to do. You're not going to believe this. And I still wrestle with that to this day. So as I reflect on that, I think about our text in Psalm 139. That's like our circumstance today. And so often in our lives, we find ourselves in situations, individually, corporately, where the glass isn't very full, right? Maybe some of you feel like that right now as you sit in this space. The glass isn't very full. And we're asking those questions, right? Where is God? God, what are you doing? What are you doing? And our situation seems to just progressively get worse, and we're not quite sure if God is even there. And we're reminded by texts like these and experiences like I've shared with you today that God is there. We may not be able to see it at the time, but He is there and He is working. I believe this to the core of my being, that God is always working to heal and to restore and to put back together things that are broken, even the things that you and I are responsible for breaking in the first place. He's always working. We may not be able to see it, but He's always busy about His work, right? And we're introduced to this word, Sheol. It's kind of it's a troublesome word to translate from Hebrew into language that you and I can understand. And so there's a lot of variation there, right? This idea of hell or Hades or a place of darkness. And I think the intent, particularly when you reflect on the life of Job, it's meant to communicate to us this idea of a place where God isn't. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, or whatever you think that to be, a place where God isn't. And I certainly think hell and Hades and a place of darkness are qualifiers for what it would be like to be eternally in the absence of God, right? And so I think it's meant to communicate that idea. In the writer here in Psalm, he's going through all of this list of things. Even if I am in Sheol, even if I'm in the place where God isn't, guess what? God is there too. And as I said earlier, He's always working. He's always working to heal and restore and to put back together again. And that's particularly important for us today, I believe, as we think about the circumstances that we face in life. Again, individually, corporately, societally. Because the world is sometimes good at convincing us, right, that God isn't there. And it creates a similar dynamic of our descending into Sheol, a place where God isn't. And I think sometimes parts of our society would like to think that God is not there. But God is there, and He's working. And I think we're introduced in our text to the remedy to this. When we face things, when we face darkness, when we are on the verge of being convinced that God is not present, when we struggle with difficulty, that when we struggle with that, right? God has given us the remedy to think properly about these things. And that's the text I ask you in 23 and 24 to hold on to, right? This idea, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me, O God, and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me. And lead me into the way everlasting. We cannot properly understand God's presence in our life and His enduring work in and through our lives if we are not first ready to let God search us and to let God test us and to examine our wickedness so that we can be led in the way everlasting. And it's only through that context that we can understand that we are never too far away from a redeeming and loving God. You know, over vacation, I got the opportunity to read a lot, and a book that I'm reading. I still haven't finished it because it's quite a lot to read. But a book that I've had on my list for a while. Any of you have lists of books that you never quite get to? I stockpile them, it seems. And so anyway, had some wide open time, right, to really dive into the book that I'm reading. It's a book called Stamped from the Beginning. It's by a cultural anthropologist, Ibram X. Kendi. It's a book examining racist ideas and racism, not only in the context of the United States, but globally, right? It didn't originate in the United States. I hope you know that. And it's quite a massive undertaking. I would recommend it to you, but I would recommend it with a warning, right? If you read the book with preconceived notions about what you think racism is, you're going to miss the point of the book. And so it's a disciplined task to read content of this kind with an open mind and to hear and receive the information anew and fresh. It only has a formative effect if you're able to do that. And so reading through this book, and I'm going somewhere with this, so just hang on. So in reading through this book, and then, I woke up Saturday morning to the news of the death of one of my heroes, John Lewis. And not because of his political life. My man crush on John Lewis goes way back. So one of my heroes for the type of person that he is and the character by which he lives. And it was saddening for me. And as I reflect on the readings and the things that I've watched and the influence that he's had in my life, I was saddened by that news, although I knew that was coming. He's had quite a long battle with cancer. And then sorting through all of that and having that information in the book and getting that news and wrestling as I'm preparing my sermon, as I'm kind of holding this text in Psalm 139. And I woke up this morning, and this is the part that wasn't in my sermon until this morning, right? Which is kind of odd. I don't really like doing it that way, but that's the way it happens sometimes. But I woke up wide awake, 3 o'clock this morning, sat up in bed with this phrase in my mind, and it's influenced by all of this, right? Be careful what has to be true for you so that you do not have to change. Be careful what has to be true for you so that you do not have to change. And as I've ran that phrase over in my mind, and as I think about our text in Psalm 139, this idea of what it means for God to search us, right? To search me and know my heart, to test me and know my thoughts, to examine the wickedness, right? Not in our political system or in our social movements, right? Not in Democrats or Republicans, or not in your spouse at home or your coworker that you can't stand, right? But fill in the blank, right? You all have that in your mind. Our call is not for God to examine their wickedness, is it? God is to examine our wickedness so that we can reconcile that to His love and grace and become the people that are actually positioned to do the things and be the things that make our world a better place. The change has to happen in you, not them or they, whoever the heck that is. Right? It has to happen in you. There is no promise attached to that it is going to be easy. You're fooling yourself if you think that it is. Self-examination and letting God get in there and mix things up. You've heard me use that expression before. Letting Jesus have access to all the rooms in our house, not just the living room, but the closet where we stuffed all of the stuff that was in the living room, right? He's got to have access to all of it. And the change happens in you first so that you can be something new and different for the kingdom. I hope you can understand that. That our call is one of yielding ourselves. And if we're not willing to do that, then it's not likely that you and I are ever going to be that roofing contractor that makes it not rain in someone's building. We're not likely going to be that student who Jesus says, hey, check this out. He's ready. And I'm about to mess him up. But it's what he needs. Because his view is not in alignment with the kingdom. And I'm going to put someone in his life that shows him a different story. So what is your story? What is your story? What is your Sheol? What is your Sheol? What is leaning in on you that's making you feel as though God is not there? Maybe the question, what is it in you that needs to be changed? What is it in you that Jesus might be in heaven saying, check out what I'm fixing to do. It's going to mess this guy up. But it's right. How willing are you to let God search you and know your heart, to test you and know your thoughts? How willing are you to let God examine the wickedness in you first, change who you are, so that you can be a source of change for others? How willing are you to do that? It's not easy, but it's what we're called to do. Only then, friends, I wonder, is that God agreeing or disagreeing? Not sure that it works like that. It's only when we are willing to do this, right, that you and I are in a position of being one yes away, right? Of being one divine appointment away. It's only when we do this that we are able to be the person for someone else that God needs us to be. And when we do that, friends, I believe it's only then that our world begins to get better. That your life begins to get better. That your marriage begins to get better. That your work situation begins to get better. When we let God change us. Invite our team back up as we get ready to close our service today. I'm going to jump back on the drums, but before I do, I'm not sweaty enough yet, so I'm going to finish it out. But as we transition and get ready to close our service today, I invite you to consider these questions, right? Consider where you are. Consider how it is that God needs to search you and test you and rectify the wickedness in you first, and what that might look like as you become a source of life for others. The altars are open. You can come and pray. You can pray in your seat if you're more comfortable with that. But to think deeply on the love and grace of God in these moments. Test me. Search me. See if there's any wickedness in me. May that be your prayer as we worship God together.
Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Lord, turn His face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you, be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children.
May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and the children and the children. May His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you, in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, 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 He is for you. Children, may His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you, in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, He is for you, He is for you. He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is for you.
This morning we're thankful for a God that is for us. Thank you so much for joining us for worship. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week at this time. Thank you for worshiping with us this morning. You've come prepared to worship with your tithes and offerings. The basket is at the door. Have a great week. Thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody.